Welcome back to Permission to Be Rich, the show where we explore the mindset, tools, and transformations that unlock abundance in life and business. Today, I'm joined by special guest Emanuel Zevallos, a certified emotion code and body code practitioner who's got over 10 years of experience in energy healing. Emanuel is also a certified hypnotherapist and group energy facilitator who has helped countless people release emotional blocks and step into true success. In this episode, we're going to dive deep into the unseen forces that might be holding you back, like trapped emotions, limiting belief systems, and the energy of the heart wall. So if you've ever felt stuck on your business, your finances, or your life, this is the conversation you didn't know you needed. Let's get started. This episode is sponsored by the Sacred Scale Masterclass, a free 90-minute training designed specifically for coaches, healers, and wellness professionals who are ready to grow their business without the burnout. So if you've ever wondered how to scale your gifts into a thriving business that generates consistent 100K months, this is your invitation. You'll learn how to align your energy, elevate your offers, and attract high-paying clients without sacrificing your well-being. This isn't hustle culture. This is Sacred Scale. Grab your seat now at kris4digital.com or check the show notes for the link. Well, I'm so excited to have Emanuel here. If you don't know Emanuel, he is the creator of Compass Healing Center out of Utah. He is an amazing healer I've actually used to myself in the past. So Emanuel, thank you so much for joining us on Permission to Be Rich.
So glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you because this is kind of a different twist on other conversations that I have when it comes to people who are trying to create wealth and success in their business, maybe create their own financial economies and stuff. Because one of the things that has come up in a lot of conversations with a lot of the entrepreneurs I've been talking to is about how they had to overcome abundance blocks. And I know that you work on this heavily within your practice and with your clients. So I wanted to really dive deep into how we really have to work on belief systems and emotional, blockages that we have to sometimes create the wealth. And we have to do that first before we decide to create the business. Would you agree?
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. And you know what's interesting is that this is such a very sensitive subject to me because I was on the other end. It's almost like I was the initial client of this work before I was helping out others. And one of the things that really, I'll just kind of give a little backstory. So for like probably 10 years, I was very much struggling with home-based businesses. There was this amazing sort of spiritual quote that I heard from a church leader once that said that no success can compensate for failure in the home. And I remember like that was the definition of my oncologist parents. They're very successful, doing very well. And I guess I would say their love language would be giving gifts or providing for us. But this man over here with the spiked hair needed a lot of time, like, time, nourishment, things like that. And I was basically raised by, I kind of make a joke about it. I say I was raised by a silver spoon, but my parents weren't the ones feeding me. And so I wanted to find a way where I can work from home, but for 10 years I was struggling. And what I noticed, and if anybody's listening who's worked from home before, you do network marketing, direct sales, great industry. But if you notice, there's a really high attrition rate. People kind of drop off left and right. And why is that? It's because they had these dreams. And all of a sudden, those dreams aren't happening, number one, as quickly as they want to. They didn't realize how rejection would be very hard. There's just so many different reasons and almost, I would say, excuses for them to kick themselves out. And it makes perfect sense. The problem is if you do nothing outside of your job, then nothing changes. That should be a fear of yours. It's like, okay, so if I don't do anything different, then the next 5 years will be exactly the same. And what I try to tell people is that the thing that's really holding us back is emotional baggage. Just very simply, trapped emotions in our body, whether we created them, whether we absorbed them from a family member, whether they're inherited of your great 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 grandfather who lost his farm and failed, is inside of you now. And whenever you feel failure, you just woke up this inherited emotion. All those things contribute to your they'll basically sabotage you in regards to your pursuit for success.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. So I have a question. So obviously a lot of people, we bring on different things, even belief systems from our parents and whatever.
Um, how do people know like when they need to do something different? Like, what does that look like? Because I know a lot of, like you said, the attrition rate, even in like home-based businesses or startups, people get to that 40%, but they feel tapped out, and then they eject themselves from it, right? And then they go and start something new, but they're kind of doing the same process, but a lot of times they're not catching it, right? Because it's not so physical sometimes. So how do they know when to catch themselves and go, oh, you know what? I kind of was doing the same patterns in the last business I had in this one, but I really want this one to work. But if it failed in that one, it's probably going to stumble me in this one. I'm going to hit that 40% again and go, it's just not working.
So that's a great question. I'd probably start off with the three-star alignment. Okay. So this is something that I learned early on. So picture like three stars, and these three stars have to align in order for you to have success. So the first star is you're not doing it right. So these are reasons why you may not be succeeding in your business, is you're literally not doing it right. Like you're saying the wrong things, you're providing the wrong product to the wrong people. You're just not there's something in your MO that's not working, right? So you need to obviously study how to do it properly. You should get trained properly. Now, let's say you do get trained properly. Let's say you're doing it right now, right? The second star is you're not doing it enough. So you are doing it right, but you're not being consistent, or you're doing it right, but you don't have like a certain pace that really works for you. Okay. And so that's the second star. And then if you are doing it at a perfect rate, and and you're very well learned and you're trained, and you're still not having success, then the third star would be self-development. But a lot of people just, trust me, I've read all the books like Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I've read it. However, if your subconscious are like claws scraping the ground behind you, then everything you read, your subconscious is kind of laughing at the author. It's kind of saying, okay, yeah, that's great, but I don't believe that. Oh, yeah, that's great for you, but I don't believe that. Because that's kind of what reading is. Reading is kind of like interviewing a very successful person, and you're listening to them, but how much are you actually retaining if your subconscious is rejecting it? So, for example, if somebody has a history where money doesn't come easily. See, they can go into my office and I would say, well, I could do this long distance, but I would say, money comes easily and frequently to me. I want you to say that and then put your arm out. And this is called muscle testing, or what they call applied kinesiology. If you're listening to this and not watching this, I'm basically pushing down on my arm near the wrist area, above the wrist actually, and lightly pushing down and asking certain questions. And your body is like a lie detector test. It remembers every single second of your life, every tear you've dropped, every trauma you've received, even things in the womb, even things before you were born. That's a whole nother deep subject. Um, so it remembers all these things, and according to that, it's kind of you're filtering life in a different way. So if you had a lot of trauma where money hasn't been easy, and you have years and years and years, then I'm going to easily push down on your arm. Your body's like, I don't believe that. But then you can go even further and ask, well, how much does your body believe that? Is it less than 90%, 80, 70, 20, 10? Okay. So more than five, six, seven. So you're at 7%. So then I would use this body code app, find certain emotional energies that are making you only believe it that low percentage, and then move you to 100%. All of a sudden, what you've learned in a book now becomes a reality to your subconscious. Once those things match, watch out. You're kind of a weapon to receive finances. But until then, you're always kind of like in the back of your mind, it's like fighting you against new information you've received.
Which is wild because I definitely had those blocks, and then I've overcome things. And listen, I grew up in a household where we always had provision. Like we weren't poor as kids. I mean, my parents were tight with their money, I would say, but we always had nice houses, new cars. Like we didn't have whatever we wanted, but we certainly always had food on the table and had nice clothes on our back. So like I never struggled with that. There were times as an adult where like I got into a bad business partnership one time.
Mm.
And that really I mean, it took me for a loop for like many years. I still sometimes have remnants of it because I get scared. Like, do I trust this person? You know, like when someone takes hundreds of thousands of dollars from you, that, I mean, that's a deep wound in the body, right? Where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't afford to lose that again. I can't question, you know, the decisions I'm making all the time, but you do, you know, like when you're running a business and you're trying to be independent, because I've always basically been an independent worker. I've been a freelancer for 20 years in television. Then when I got out of that, you know, my husband says like 1,249 different things I tried, but like, cause that's how I am. I'm just like, I'm a creative person. I'm like, oh, this would be really cool. I should try this. So, what do you say to people who outside of, obviously we know the first thing is like generational, you know, childhood things, you know, things we're told or belief systems. What about adults who have maybe tried a lot of businesses like you kind of started with, like they get into the MLM and they get into this, you know, other freelance thing and it's just not working. And now they're feeling all of these emotions about their own ability. Like, man, I'm creating my own problems because I'm putting myself in situations where I'm not maybe educated enough or I'm partnering with the wrong people. What do you say to people who have kind of created their problems as an adult and they're trying to succeed in their business?
The easiest way I can say this is that we're definitely creating emotional energies as an adult, but a lot of them could be instigated due to child trauma. So children were the most kind of absorbing of new information, and we kind of start framing the world very, very young. So it's almost like the cherry on top was the adult that created new trauma, but the cake was really childhood stuff. And so, for example, there's a really interesting story that I read in a book about how this one kid was saving money and he put it in a jar. And at some point, his parents went bankrupt. And he remembers going to his room and they were basically running into his jar and taking it. And they're like, we really need this money. And they were just kind of scavenging for finances. And he made a belief system at that time. And I don't know if he was 9 years old, 8 years old, very young. And he says that in order for my family to love me, I need to financially take care of them.
Ooh.
So that followed him due to the fact that I think I read it from a book called Becoming a King by Morgan Snyder. It's a really great book for any men who listen to this, or if you're a woman, recommend this to your man. It's a really great kind of Christian perspective of like how do you become a king, but a lot of it has to do with like the child and how you were raised. And how we picture our creator, and so it's trying to help you frame differently. But anyway, so I just thought that was really interesting. And throughout his life, he continued to take care of his family. They would only have 2 vacations a year, and he just felt like that was going to be his love language for the future because that's his ingrained belief that he received from childhood. Um, so there was somebody that I had a friend that well, he was a quote unquote friend. Basically took almost $500,000 from me. Like he scammed me that much. I get
Hey, I'm
talking
feeling
about,
that for you. I'm feeling that
yeah,
for you.
yeah. So talking about deep wounds, and one of the things is that there's two things. One is that you might at that point, and I did at that point, kind of felt like a victim of betrayal. And the way I look at it too is that sometimes the creator sends people your way. Um, a lot of people think of soulmate as someone who just adds to you, but I also picture a soulmate as someone who takes away from you because you learn something from that. And so because the soul doesn't care whether they take away or give. In the end, the takeaway is a give. And so soulmates is not just a person you love, it's people who add to your soul. So consciously it makes no sense. This person should not be my soulmate, and this person's not supposed to do this evil thing to me, and I hate him, I resent him, and whatever. That's conscious brain talking. Subconscious is like, wow, look how much I've grown since that person. So we have to kind of like put that into an equation too, that some people will come into your life to help you grow. Now the thing it's my job now to say how much peace do I have with that betrayal? Because if I don't do that, there will be a tendency to attract other people. There's a energy inside of us called a broadcast message. So a broadcast message in the body code system is basically attracts the wrong people, wrong circumstances, and wrong things. So you've heard of that. Probably you have a friend who maybe says like, "Oh, they always attract the what? The abusive boyfriend." And you're like, "What is up with her? Like she's so pretty, she's so smart, she deserves it." You got to take that back to when she was a child and whether it was her mom that was narcissistic towards her or her dad who was slightly emotionally abusive to her or too hard on her, she made a broadcast message, or you can almost picture it like a shirt that she's wearing that says, treat me like a child, or abuse me, or neglect me. And then she made that broadcast message, and then as she moves on in life, she continues to attract people that honor her shirt. And this is the one that I had, which was very rough. I don't know if it was the person who took 500,000 away from me. It was betray me.
Ooh.
And the practitioner who worked on me was like, "Have you, like had any like betrayal in your life?" And I was like, I could write a freaking book on betrayal, you know?
Right.
And so, like I said, there's certain energies that are coming off of you that if you release it, you won't keep attracting the same theme over and over again. And that might happen with you, Kris. You may have this broadcast message you're putting out there that may attract someone who's the shady business partner to you, and you're like, not again. Why are you shady again? And I think it's what's beautiful is our body has a tune-up system, and we can tap into it through muscle testing and using magnets and intuition.
I love this. And let's talk about that practice a little bit for anyone who doesn't know. So Emmanuel focuses on, it's called the motion code, body code, and probably a few other systems. But if they're not familiar with the process, maybe just explain what it, I know you talked about what the muscle testing is, but maybe just talk about the process and what it actually is.
So we have a very love. I want to start off with this. We have a very loving creator. Okay. And I don't care what your beliefs are, whether you're Buddhist or Christian. We have a loving creator and we are created. We have like a godly design to us. Now, if a car person created a tune-up system for their car, like to let you know, hey, the gas is low. This needs help. The carburetor needs some whatever. Pretty sure an intelligent designer architect of the heavens probably made a tune-up system for us, and so our spiritual forefathers knew this. Some of our great 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 grandparents, they probably tapped into their form of muscle testing, their form of releasing energies, if whether it was breath work or different things. And so this is not something that was kind of created from someone just through sackcloth. It was kind of like rebirthed again in some ways. And so the way it works is that our body produces trapped emotions. And so let me go backwards. Actually, our body creates energies. Um, so I want to say like, in our brain, typically I think that's how we create our emotions. When I was younger, I thought that's where all the emotions came from. Because when people were depressed, they're like, oh, you don't have enough, dopamine or serotonin, so I always thought it was in the brain. Dr. Bradley Nelson, who lives probably 15 minutes away from me, he said that he was a chiropractor for 20 years. And so he started getting these downloads of how the body really works. And so the liver, for example, produces anger, bitterness, guilt, hatred, resentment. That's the liver. So you probably know people who they drink too much alcohol, they drink too much caffeine. And what emotions do they readily feel? Anger, bitterness, guilt, hatred, resentment. And so, you've probably had this happen before to you, Kris, is that let's say you get very sad and you're crying, right? All of a sudden you stop crying and you're like, oh my, like it's almost like your waterworks stops, and you're like, I can't cry anymore. So
Yes.
so what happens, or maybe you're really angry, you have this crazy trigger and you're like really upset, but then there comes a moment where you can't be angry anymore. It just kind of like fades away and you're like, what was that? And I've always wondered, like, where is the clock that tells you to stop being triggered or stop crying? But it makes a lot more sense if you kind of frame it this way, is that these organs and glands are producing emotions the size of a tennis ball to a cantaloupe. And they're processing through our skin stratosphere and it leaves our body. Now, when it leaves your body, you fully process it or you finish the cycle of the emotion. But sometimes it gets trapped. It doesn't process properly for whatever reason and it gets stuck in the body. That's called a trapped emotion. And we have hundreds of these. Like we've absorbed them, we created them ourselves, we inherited them, we received them in the spirit body before we were born, which is kind of crazy to think about, but we even before we
Right.
were born. And so that all of these contribute to how our reality is being shifted. And so through muscle testing, as mentioned before, kind of pushing down on your arm, asking questions, you can see, if you say, "Oh, I have relationship issues." Okay. Is there a trapped emotion contributing to that? Oh, look, your arm is strong. Is it on the left side, on the right side? And so you start going through these graphs and it tells you which emotions and when it got stuck in the body. And then you use a magnet because if you've ever done this, which is kind of weird if you have, but if you ever put a magnet on a hotel card, you'll kind of remove the information from there, and then you can't use the hotel card.
Yes.
Or if you put a magnet on a computer on the database on the data board, you could mess up the computer pretty good. So it's the same thing. It's like technically these trapped emotions are just a ball of energy and we're trying to release it from the body. There's the thing called the governing meridian, which is in Chinese medicine, goes from your upper lip to the back of your spine. It's kind of like the motherboard of all meridians. There's like stomach meridian, kidney meridians. It's these freeways of energy that go through your body. Acupuncturists love using them, going like, "Oh, you have something wrong with your stomach? Go to the stomach meridian." Now, again, the motherboard is the governing meridian. It covers all meridians. And if you just lightly rub with a magnet on the governing meridian, any part of it, whether from the upper lip all the way to the back of the spine, and if you do it 3 times, you can actually remove this emotion. If it's inherited, it's 10 times you have to do it. So long distance, I would just use my fingers to muscle test. It's called the ring and ring method. There's all these different self muscle testing that I do on behalf of clients. And then I just use a magnet on myself and it releases it from them. That's called proxy work. So all my clients are all long distance. They're in India, they're in Europe, they're in Africa. They're just different places. It doesn't the distance doesn't matter because you're doing it on behalf of someone. It's called the non-locality. It's called spooky effect at a distance. It's called quantum entanglement. That's what Einstein called it, spooky effect at a distance. But it's also called quantum entanglement. So when people say this is woo woo whatever, you would really offend a quantum physicist. He would say, no, that's called quantum entanglement. That means you can affect something at long distance because technically you're interconnected. So that's how it usually works.
Which is true. So I'll share my personal story. So if you guys don't know, I actually worked with Emanuel a few years ago, and because I was on my own healing journey, I was dealing with some resurfaced trauma that came up. Because I've had repeat traumas because I literally wear a shirt that has something on it, right? And I had a really strange experience. So I had been watching Emanuel for a few years, and I was like, I really gotta talk to him about. There was like 2 specific problems that I wanted him to like work with me on. And he was really good in the approach where, do you remember what you said to me? And you probably do this with everybody, but you're like, I'm on the phone with you. And you're like, so have you ever had this, done this process before? And I was like, no. I said, I just kind of watched some things that you've done on YouTube and that's the extent of it. And you're like, okay, well, sometimes it's easier for people to understand and like connect with it if we work on a physical problem first. And you said, do you have any pains right now? And I actually did. And what was crazy is I was about to have foot surgery. I had gone to Bali for a month. And when I came back, all of a sudden I couldn't walk on my feet. Like I would get out of my bed and have to put my Hoka tennis shoes on because they were the fluffiest ones I could find because I could barely walk on them. It was so bad. And I went through that for a whole year. And finally the doctor's like, we have to have surgery on your feet. And I was like, this is terrible. And I really didn't want to have surgery. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't think it's going to work because like I'm having surgery and this is like a big deal. I said, yeah, my feet, they've been bothering me. And you're like, okay, well, just, you did whatever you did on the other side of the phone. And I'm just sitting there, just, waiting for you to tell me what to do next. You're like, okay, well, I just want you to get up and walk around, move some of the energy around a little bit. And I was like, okay, I walked around and it was the craziest thing because I was like, this isn't real. This isn't going to last because they stopped hurting. Not one foot, but both feet. And I was like, okay. So I go, wow, okay. Are you sure? And you're like, yep. And then you go, wait a little bit more. And you're like, okay, just walk around more. And I walked around and I was like, this is insane. And I thought for sure in an hour, the next day, my feet were going to hurt. Never had the foot surgeries. never had the pain come back. It was the wildest thing. I think you had told me, and this is like 5 years ago now, 4 years. I think you told me I picked up there was like a pathogen that I picked up in my feet, probably from being in Bali and all the energies. And it was like something like that. But I remember going back to my doctor, like, I don't need to have the surgery. Like, my feet are fine. And the fact, even now, like, I wear flip-flops every day. I live in Florida now, and it's warm, and like flip-flop weather is my jam. And I can wear the flip-flops, and I always think, like, I wonder if that's ever going to come back. Nope, it never does. So I think it's a really cool method when people are uncertain and unsure, because physical we can feel, right? But when you're working on the emotions, we don't always know or feel like maybe an immediate change. It comes through, like, in the future when you're maybe dealing with an ex, or, like seeing, whatever situation come up that maybe might have triggered you before. So the physical part of it works in this method that he does as well. So it's just a great way to, like, let the conscious know, okay, this is something that's working.
That, first of all, I'm so happy that that never came back. It's like, it's, I was like scared when you asked that question, is it ever going to come back? I'm like, no, no, we don't even need to think about that. But one of the things that I also think about too is that pain is just, they're just messengers. Pain are just teachers. And we just need to, there's something in the body that's saying there's something code red emotionally, typically, that needs to be addressed. And if you don't address it, I'll continue to give you pain. And this is actually the fastest ways that I bond with men. Like, men, as soon as I get rid of their pain, I mean, they're like, offering me their daughter. They want to give me a beer. They want to, I'm happily married, and there's no need for that. But I'm just
Yeah.
trying to show you the extent of that, how happy they get, because men have to suck it up. Men have to be like, I got pain in my shoulder. I've been having this pain for like 20 years. Like, pain for 20 years. I'm not going to tell my wife about it. Yeah, I go to a chiropractor once and then, and I feel good for a month, but it's like they just deal with it. And
Yeah.
so that's one of my favorite bonding bridges that I create with men, is like, show me your, like, not show me the money like Jerry Maguire, like,
Yeah.
show me the pain. Where is the pain? Let's get rid of it. And I also find it fascinating when I can pinpoint what age this emotion got trapped in. Again, that also increases belief. I mean, Kris, I'm pretty sure when we first met, I probably was very thorough with ages with you. And I
Hmm.
did I did that on purpose, because
Yeah.
if she can connect the dots with those ages and trauma, the belief level also increases, because I could not know anything about your past. I couldn't know anything about what you've been through. You're a complete stranger to me.
Yeah.
So that again just adds more validity to it.
It really does. And what's funny is, my dad was having an issue, and my dad never goes to the doctor, and he's just old school mentality. And he was just really suffering a couple years ago with his, like, he was having pain in his legs. Um, and I said, Dad, why don't you just go to Emanuel and just try it? And I remember him calling me, and my dad doesn't cry. Like, that's not, he doesn't do that. Like, he's just a typical tough guy from the 50s, right? And he got choked up on the phone. He couldn't speak for a second. I was like, Dad, are you okay? And I'm going to get teary-eyed a little bit, because my mom was like, Kris, just give him a second. I was like, oh my gosh, like, what happened? He was like, how did this person know all these very specific things? And he was like, but I feel so much better. And my dad had been going to physical therapy, chiropractors, getting cortisone, like all these things for months. And I think subconsciously, he had turned 72. His dad died at 72 from, bone cancer. And so, like, I think, there was a lot of that you kind of brought forward, but there was other things too that were just like wild. And I won't go into all the details of it, but I just remember thinking, like, see, this stuff is really amazing. If people would just stop band-aiding it with all of these other methods that are forced on us, like a surgery, like I was being told I had to do, the magic that we could get out of our lives, just kind of like cleaning up some of the stuff we keep in our closet that we don't even know is there, is just so helpful and so healing. And it almost changes perspective, like you did with my dad. You opened my dad's heart to something that he probably just did out of just trying to appease me, to like get me to stop bugging him about it. But now he was like a believer. He's like, wow, this actually helped me, and it does work. So I think that's great that you can connect with men on that level. because my dad was struggling with the pain, and he just thought that he was going to have to suffer with that for the rest of his life.
I have, unfortunately, one addiction in my life, and I hate seeing people in pain. I can't do it. And my wife has to like hold me back because I will literally work on a homeless person who can't walk right. Like she'll be like, no, no, we
Aw.
gotta go, we gotta go somewhere. And I'm like, and she, oh man, it's just, it's just funny. Like she can read my thoughts when I see someone, and we're just so connected. Like she just knows,
She
like,
knows your soul inside and out.
yeah,
And
yeah. She knows.
girl,
She knows. She's like, I know what you're thinking, and I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, I could help him out, and I don't know how to approach him or what am I going to say. So it's and there's so many times too, like where let's say maybe we're like around a basketball team, with my son, and a kid gets injured, and it's almost like the superhero who has to hold back. It's like I can't. I want to move into action and help this person out, but what if the coaches or the father is not agreeing to what type of work that I do? They're not open-minded. Maybe they're like your father, maybe like 10 years before that, and then I don't want to offend him. So there's all these things where it's like sometimes I have to restrict myself to say like, okay, this isn't the time. Maybe my wife can talk to the wife. Like I don't know, but the reality is that um, I always tell people that when it comes to with wealth, bringing back to things because you're this wealth podcast, sometimes I work on people's health, for example, their adrenals. So the person might say, "Oh, aren't we working on wealth? Why are we tapping into adrenals?" Well,
yeah,
if you look into adrenals, it causes fatigue. It also causes pain in the body. It also causes brain fog. So the subconscious is saying, like, even if I were to remove curses and remove broadcast messages and remove all these energies, what is that to me if I have no energy and if I have brain fog? Like how strong can you be in the marketplace? How well can you do a presentation? How well can you go on the telephone if you have brain fog and you have no energy? So that
yeah.
also your health does contribute to wealth, where they say health is wealth.
Mhm.
Yeah. And again, too, why would you want to say, oh, let's focus on wealth and not focus on my body symptoms? Seriously, you can't enjoy wealth if your body is breaking down. So
That's
I always tell people, I'm like, look, if you've got some serious stomach issues and lung issues, can we work on those first and get you back to where you feel like yourself again? Because you're not going to be able to really enjoy the pleasures of the thing you've been striving for your whole life.
It's true. We are kind of like that onion layer where we have to peel back. And even though we want to work on the abundance things, it could be all these other layers that we have to like unfold first. Like the heart wall thing, I think is the first one that you worked on for me. You're like, you've got a heart wall. We actually have to work on that first. We can't just go into your abundance blocks. We have to work on this heart wall that you have. So maybe talk a little bit about when you're on a phone call with someone new and you're kind of doing that intake on them and what their goals are. How do you determine, obviously you're using, your system that you use, but how do you work with them to say, this is an onion we got to unfold and this is actually where we need to start?
Okay, so with that, it has to do with the body would know when to go to the heart wall. I'm a very big advocate of it because of what Dr. Brad said. He said, it's basically the greatest discovery in energy healing history. Now, I don't know about you, but I didn't create something recently where I can say, actually it's so funny because it reminds me of when I was in his living room sitting down next to him on a couch. This is probably like this first or second time I met him. And he was like my hero because I like he basically gave me my career. It's kind of
Yeah.
like it's my he like if it wasn't for him, I'd probably still be sell I'd probably be a trainer for a real estate company, and I don't even have a real estate license. Like it would, I'm so fish out of water. So, or maybe I go back to Domino's Pizza. I'm like, hey guys, I'm back here again. Like, let's go just deliver some pizzas. So that's whenever I see a Domino's Pizza guy, like, don't tell my wife. I always tip him a little bit more than
Yeah.
usual. And I tell him, are you an audiobook guy or are you a book guy? I always tell them about the emotion code. And sometimes they tell me like, "Oh, no, you already told me about the book." I'm like, "Okay, just making sure." But because you never know, like, it's like I see myself in them. I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we if I can introduce you to a universe where you understand yourself more, like that book would really help you out.
Yeah. Free
Um,
yourself. If you could free yourself instead of looking outside of you for someone to free you, that would be like
yeah.
magic for everybody.
Exactly. And so it was just kind of brought me back to a funny little memory where I was sitting next to him and I said, "You know what? I'm like, I'm gonna discover something and I'm gonna call it the greatest discovered energy healing, you know?" And he started laughing, you know. But I told him, I said, "Well, I know what you're saying is true." And he's like, "How's that?" I'm like, "Because I did pro bono work for PTSD veterans because I came from military school for 3 years. And the people that trained me sometimes went to Vietnam um, 3 times by request, got shot, got the Purple Heart, came back, and then went back again and got shot again. Like these people are some hardcore hitters out there, and they have serious trauma. And the more I've learned about PTSD veterans, I've also learned that a good majority of them they have serious family trauma,
Mhm.
and the war was the final explosion, you know?
Yeah.
No pun intended, but
Yeah.
it took them over the edge. But the family trauma was pushing them to the edge. So that's why whenever I worked with them, I was like, wow, a lot of your heart walls were actually before the military. So
Yeah.
but anyway, what I was going to say was the heart wall um, was discovered that our trapped emotions get placed over the heart. So how many times, and Kris, you probably know this, is your heart feels heavy or it feels like it's going to break due to the fact that someone passed away, a breakup, stress at work. So during that time, your tendons inside your heart are being stretched and it can cause in some people this kind of like heaviness of the heart, this ache of the heart. And during that time, you're almost on the verge of passing away. It's actually kind of scary. You're actually one step closer to broken heart syndrome, which if you ask a Mayo Clinic cardiologist 20 years ago what causes that, they'll just be like, oh, stress, stress is excess cortisol, maybe it's affecting the heart. Now, if you talk to one of those cardiologists, they'll say, oh yeah, trauma from someone passing away. Now they're finally putting the emotional component that stretched the heartstrings. And so your body is so intelligent because it was created by an intelligent being. So it places a trapped emotion over the heart to protect it from breaking. So the good news is you lived another day. The bad news is you're putting yourself in an energetic bunker. That's the only problem. So you're placing these walls. So let's say frustration, sadness, resentment. You're stacking these walls. Now, you think you stacked them when you were a kid, but I confess to you that you've actually absorbed it from your mom sometimes in the womb. I worked with one client who was a very, very cold to his parents. Just called services on them and like called the police on them. I mean, this teenager, 15-year-old, was just rough on all edges. And I worked on him, and I remember going like, "Why do I keep finding prenatal heart walls here? Like, what was going on?" I was talking to the mom. I said, Why does this kid have so many heart walls in the womb?" And he's like, "Oh, I forgot to remind you, this isn't my child." And I was like, "Okay, so this is adopted?" Yeah, she was a meth addict and she would get abused physically all the time. So this kid was getting hit left and right. I always tell mothers, you got to be very careful when you have a child. That bun in the oven is absorbing things from you all the time. And that's why there's some Chinese cultures that not all China, but some Chinese cultures, they'll as soon as they get notice of the baby, they kind of take a sabbatical from the husband. They eat better food, they meditate more, and because they know that the kid's being programmed. So what's happening is you're absorbing these emotions, and your body makes them into heart walls. And then, so even as a baby, you could have come out with 5 heart walls already. You haven't even seen the light yet, and you've already have 5 heart walls. And then as time progresses, you make more of them. And so here are the 8 symptoms of the heart wall. Whoever is listening to this, if you have a pen with you, kudos to you. My mentor taught me that you want to trust a short pencil more than a long-term memory, right?
Love it.
The first one is it gives you issues with your immune system. So if you have physical issues a lot, Heart wall can cause that, or you have low energy all the time. That's also heart wall too. Now, why is that? Because they've done more studies now in recent times where the brain used to be the main communicator to different organs and glands. But there's more research being done where in like the Heart Math Institute, where it talks about where the heart is sending messages to your organs and glands too. So it's your brain and your heart. Sometimes they call the heart the second brain, and so it's sending messages to all parts of the body. And so imagine you're sending mixed messages now if you have walls around your heart. So your organs and glands are technically are not working at its highest level. So that's number one. Number two is lack of clarity of your mission in life. So you might say, I don't know if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Or maybe consciously you're like, no, I know what I'm doing, but you've only kind of confirmed with your mind. You haven't confirmed it with your heart yet. Once you have them both combined, that's a very dangerous woman or man, just letting you know. Number three, when you receive love from your partner, maybe you're like, I see it. I just don't feel it like I used to. I feel almost numb, like desensitized. That's number three. Number four is when you talk to people, you might send mixed messages to them. How many times have you talked to your partner or family member and they hear something different than what you said? And you go, oh, they must be having a what? A bad day.
Hey,
You
yeah,
Yeah, they're having a bad day. It's not me. It can't be
it's
me. They're
them.
having a
Yeah.
bad day. But I'm gonna tell you that your heart's having a bad time. Your heart's having a bad time, and it's sending mixed messages to that person. So it comes out as a beautiful butterfly, and it has to go through all these walls. There's all these walls, 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 walls. By the time it gets to the partner or your family member, it's this weird, ugly looking bat that now they're receiving. So the fifth one is financial abundance. It will increase your financial abundance. You might say, why? What is the heart having to do with abundance? Well, there's nothing more attractive in a man or woman if they know how to receive love fully. They know how to give love, clear, full love, fully, and they know their mission, mind and heart combined. You have that person, people will come for miles to light your fire and to assist you. And also the last six, seven, eight is lowers depression, anxiety, and triggers. Do you want to be an entrepreneur that deals with anxiety, depression, triggers? If not, then you need to clear your heart wall down because again, you've put yourself into the same chessboard that I'm in, but you've put yourself with sort of like a pawn handicap. So I don't know about you. I'd rather be a queen on the chessboard. It's the same game we're playing, but you're limited because your heart wall is sending mixed messages. Your clients don't feel love from you fully. They're wondering, can I trust him? Can I not trust him? It's because you're sending mixed messages to them. So you can see how the heart wall is very important to clear to increase your abundance.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So, you know how they talk about like there's like four pillars in life that people are trying to, their health, wealth, spirituality, relationships. Why is it that some people are so good at being successful and making money and, they just kind of repeat, rinse and repeat in their business, but then they struggle in relationships or vice versa. They're super good in their marriage and they've been together forever, but they just can't seem to get the financial piece figured out. Like, why is it always like it seems like it's always on this like teeter totter thing?
That's a really great question. So can you become successful with your heart wall not being cleared? And the answer is yes. There's a lot of people. And how do they do that? Um, there's a couple of ways. Number one is the most unlikely way. Number one is you grew up in the most healthiest, wealthiest, positive, affirming family you've ever received. So that's kind of like on the money side, your dad sat you down at 6 years old. He's like, all right, this is how we take care of finances. And by the way, the rich people do this, poor people. I mean, if you got programmed,
Yeah.
you're going to be really good with money. Or on another separate way, your parents were terrible with money and things were awful, and you personally reprogrammed yourself with books and seminars and audio. You personally reprogrammed yourself just through books and learning, and you might have done your own subconscious work. I tell you this, the book Think and Grow Rich,
Mhm.
that book talks about post-hypnotic suggestions. It talks about how you can people would read their goals in the morning and nighttime. That was kind of a secret code. They were doing subconscious work back then,
Yeah.
because in the first 10 minutes, your lotus flower mind is open and it's ready to receive any type of information. Right before you go to bed, you're also in that theta state, which is easily programmable, and you're reading over your goals and your affirmations like it's already there. Your body doesn't know what's real. So I have to give kudos to that book, Think and Grow Rich, because what they were doing is they may not have known the emotion code or body code, but they were very well aware that your subconscious can be programmed. So if you read the book and don't do the activities that they did, you would again suffer. But I think depending on let's say the person who does very well financially, what type of trauma did they have in regards to relationships, you know? So there's a program that I use called the Relationship Resonance Program. And this is kind of for me the highest echelon of I want to go deep dive on relationships. Now, I have a few clients that have done it. There's one client that comes to mind right now. She's so funny because she's in her older ages there, like I think she's in her 60s, I believe, and she I think had 6 kids, and still single. Like I think she got
Oh,
divorced earlier, so she's in the hope of finding someone, and it was less than again things this may depend on who you are. So I'm going to say results vary with everybody else. But just to be careful here. But I think it was like about 5 sessions, and she attracted her soulmate, and I helped her out with that. But she took 2 sessions to do an interview where my assistant asked these very deep questions that most people don't want to answer. Here's a question that Kris and myself probably don't want to answer is if we were to go back to our exes and ask what's our worst flaw about us that we're not willing to admit, what would that be? That's not an easy question. And the reason why you want to be honest with my assistant and tell her is because now I can work on that and say, why are you like that? Is it inherited? Is it a program? Is it a belief system that came from your father? What is it? So having now all those pages, what's really powerful, how amazing this is, your subconscious will tell me where to go. So I go, okay, subconscious knows what you're dealing with right now in regards to your love, and your higher self knows the best way to move forward. So I just ask her if I were to work with you, let's say, Kris, and we had this already filled out 12-page thing, I could just say, where should we go first in regards to what Kris is doing in regards to her life that would really help her in her relationship? It goes, okay, page 6. Okay, is it the first section or second section? Second section. Okay, this is positive love beliefs that she doesn't believe enough. And I would work on that. So I do have those programs in our practice, which is one's called Relationship Resonance Program. There's other one called like the Abundance Guide, like to remove all financial blocks for good. And these are just kind of like there's some people that kind of you're right. They're doing very well in one area, but this other area is just rough. Usually, this is kind of funny, ironic, right? Is that usually that other area is suffering because they did good in that one area, because that person went at it and burned the midnight oil too many times that the family suffered. It's like, oh, I got to go repair my family now. That's typically what it is. Or maybe you invest too much time in your family and then you're not putting enough time in your money wise. So it's somebody who's actually dispersing, it's the lack of dispersion on their time commitment with something, usually too.
sure. So working on more balance too, I think is probably
Yeah.
hard for some people, like, you know, being a little more disciplined in other areas than you are in the area that you're clearly are fine-tuned in, time to tap into some other resources that you could, fix or make better. And I think we all have moments where we are, we're stronger in some areas and we focus more because it feels better, right? That reward system shows up for us. I'm like, I'm doing good here. And then you kind of like, I'm going to avoid that area over here because it hasn't been working out so good. And I did that. I went through a period of like 2 years where I just like, I couldn't even work. I couldn't even bring myself to a place to work because I just felt like, man, everything I've done, I've run into all these problems. Like, I got to figure this out. And then it just, creates that fear. And you were like, is it going to happen again? Am I going to keep making the same mistakes? And listen, a lot of entrepreneurs, they get into business and failure is kind of to be expected. I mean, you're not going to just, hey, I'm going to start this career and it's just boom, right off the top, out the gate. It's,
Yep.
$1 million business overnight. But I think some people have that expectation, like if it doesn't come sooner than later, then I guess it's just not working. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to add to that too. That's interesting. So for sure, business, we do have to put the farmer mindset. 1 month is planting, the second month is watering and shooting the foxes, and then the third one is reaping, right? So give yourself. I always was trained in direct sales that you're always 90 days away from your paycheck, and that is the right mindset. Now we also have to know that 95% of small businesses fail within their first year, you know? So again, I don't tell people that small businesses don't work. It's just those 5% have almost like overridden their circuitry through self-development, through seminars, through family programming. They've done it some way, or energy healing. They did it some way.
mhm.
But watch this though, if someone fakes it till they make it, which is awful. I don't know why people do that. But if you fake it till you make it, you'll make it to the you're that 5%, but then you'll sabotage your way back because you haven't done the healing to hold it. See, so there's also that person too. Or you've heard this before, the wealthy person who's miserable. See, that made no sense to me. My whole entire life, I've always heard that, like, oh, why would you want to be rich? Because they're miserable anyway. They don't have enough money, or like in their mind they don't think they have enough.
Yeah.
I hated that because I'm like, I'd rather be that miserable with money, like if I have some misery here in poverty, I'll take the rich. I'll figure it out somehow. I'll find a psychologist or something. But now, doesn't it make more sense with the heart wall phenomenon that somebody who's escalated to wealth has been betrayed, has had lawyers against him, has lost their business, has gone bankrupt once or twice. Can you imagine the heart walls they created? And because of the heart walls, they are in a beautiful $6 million home, but they can't even feel what they've reaped. See, so that I don't know. For me, that would cause depression, and
Yeah.
that's why um, Johnny Depp buys houses and houses and houses. Johnny Depp, if you're listening to this podcast, you have a heart wall, buddy. I can get rid of it. It's like another Pirates of the Caribbean wouldn't satisfy you. It's not going to make you happier. What's going to happen is he has to clear his heart wall, and then he could feel like I made it, and like actually feel love from his people and feel love from his surroundings and keep his relationships closer. Like that's another reason why he probably attracted. Okay, we're going on another subject here, but another reason why he probably attracted Amber Heard
Yeah, I was
is
just thinking that too. Yeah,
yeah,
I was thinking
she probably has a heart wall too. They're both feeling numb together, and they act accordingly. Two numb people is it can get kind of scary, and so I always tell people like when I just letting you know, when I cleared my heart, well, I had someone else clear it for me. I didn't trust myself to do it. It's like
that.
giving myself heart surgery.
Yeah.
So I had someone else do it for me. I remember with my ex-wife, I said, I'm gonna go into direct sales again. She's like, what? She's like, you've failed for 10 years, right? It's like, this is something you really don't want to do. I'm like, yeah, but I'm different now. I've cleared my heart wall. I've worked on some abundant stuff. Let's just see what happens. I'll tell you this. I think I like recruited over 23 people in a month,
Oh
you
my
know?
gosh.
And then I won a gala event where people took a year to get in it, and I qualified it within a month. But then when I went there and I was, enjoying myself there because I was like, wow, it's like I'm gonna make it in this company. Like I'm gonna go all the way to the top. Then this little voice came to me. I don't know if it was my heart, if it was upstairs, but it was this voice that said that go back to your passion. And I was like, okay, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. Like this, I could, if I
Yeah.
wanted to, succeed in here, but that's not where my soul is supposed to be. So I moved back into my practice and just kept helping clients more. So, so I think it's just crazy. I mean, look at that. Like, I was doing everything right, right? The first star, I was being trained properly. I was doing it consecutively. People are going like, how many calls did you make? I was doing it correctly. But my third one is I didn't have healing. And so as soon as I got some healing and I went back to the field and applied everything I learned in 10 years, I exploded. There was no there's no chance I wouldn't succeed. But the real thing that was holding me back was my energetic imbalances.
And I think that's such a big truth. So I work with a lot of online entrepreneurs. I'm in the digital space. I've been in the digital space heavily for over 10 years. And I kind of got into it in my later years of television because I could see the writing on the wall and I wanted to do something different myself. And one of the things that I saw and then learned afterwards was like, okay, how come people are following all the strategy? Like these are the steps. I mean, it, it's so, when you look at a business, the systems are very similar. They're all the same. And it's really, when you think of it now, it's like easy, right?
Right.
And then it's like, no, the strategy is 20% of it. The rest is the 80% energetics. And I learned this when I was working with this one client. She makes millions of dollars a year. And looking at all her stuff, she just wanted to clean some stuff up. Like she wasn't looking to like, but I was like, oh my God, her funnel is terrible. Her website sucks. Like, like all these things. And I'm like, how
Yeah.
does she make all this money? Everything in her system was broken, wasn't clean, wasn't good. I mean, she probably lost millions of dollars because she didn't have systems set up right.
Right,
But
right.
she was just a magnet and not even intentionally like actively going out trying to be like an influencer and all this. She was just so you know what it's like when you see someone who's just so aligned? Like you
Hmm.
can just feel it from like the other side of the room. They could be like sitting at a dinner table behind you. Like there's just so much alignment in that person. Like they're just so
Yeah.
on point. And that's
Yep.
how she was. And I was like, that's when I really started paying attention to, because I'm really good at like with intuitive stuff and helping people from an energetic space in their business. Strategy I can do all day long. That's what I'm good at. I'm a techie person. Probably because I was like forced to do that as a child. I think it was more creative when I was younger, but very engineer minded family. And so like when I work with people and I'm like, wow, this is proof that you could buy all the courses, you could do work with all the high-end coaches and all the things, but if you're not in alignment with it, it doesn't matter how perfect your funnel or your website or the sales class that you took, if you're not in alignment with it, it doesn't matter. It's just still not going to work. And that was a big aha moment for me because I thought, man, I always just thought structures and systems, if they're in order, it should all work. Because that's how TV is. Like, you plug this into here, you plug this into there, you got the satellite on, like you got a live show, right? There, and it's not that simple. It's really not.
No, I that's so funny because systems also stands for save yourself time, energy, money. Everyone knows that thing. It's probably
Yes.
embedded in my network marketing brain.
Yep.
So I don't know if I can remove that implant anytime soon. So if there's a surgeon out there that can remove that for me. But one of the things that I noticed too is that it's how you show up to the arena, Um, not everyone's it's like that's why the attrition rate, is because somebody who does the law of attraction, which, Rhonda Byrne did a great job, but, she didn't start the law of attraction. There's other people that talked about it, like Wallace D. Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich, that was written back in 1910, which is kind of really law of attraction stuff there. But what's interesting about her is that she is missing a chapter, which is the chapter is not everyone starts at the same starting line when they read this book. So depending on your inherited trauma, your absorbed trauma, before you were born trauma, all this trauma, you are reading a book differently from someone else who reads the book. And so you can't promise the same things to everyone if everyone's showing up in a different situation when they get to the book. And I think that's what she's promising. It's like, and that's kind of sad because a lot of people kind of lean on that book. They're like, oh, the law of attraction, blah, blah. But then you have friends. I guarantee you have friends, Kris, that read the book and they're like, yeah, I tried it for a while. And, or like, I did it for about a year and nothing really changed, whatever. And we both know why now. It's because their subconscious was probably battling the knowledge they were receiving from that book and saying, nope, as much as you want to make $100,000 a year and visualize it, your subconscious is like your great 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 grandmother lost that farm. So as long as you have that rejection or failure or helplessness in you, it's going to somehow block you. So you have to match the energy of the goal that you want
Yeah.
to acquire. Otherwise, it's again, you're just kind of shooting darts out there and hoping something sticks.
Yeah.
And that's I feel you need to do the inner work. in that area.
Absolutely. So we'll just kind of button up a few things here. This has really been an amazing conversation, especially for anyone who's listening who feels like I've done all the systems, I've taken all the steps, I've tried all the courses, and I'm just not making any traction. There's something more internal that you have to focus on that's more of an energetic game than it is, a tactical game. So even sports players, people talk about this all the time. They visualize things, they go through a lot of different emotional coaching. It's not just the tactics on the field. They do a lot of meditations and neurofeedback and, probably do emotion body code. They probably have all these specialty coaches that are working through them to say, hey, it's not just about how you are on the field, but what are you thinking when you're on the field?
Mm.
What are you thinking when you're ready to hit that, whatever. I'm trying to think of some different sports things. I'm not the sports person, if you can't tell,
Never
but
mind. Neither am I.
so if whatever, my husband's gonna be so disappointed in that part of it, but because he's such a sports guy. But if you're trying to like get that home run or you're trying to hit that field goal, but your mind is focusing on something else, like, oh, last time I did this here at this stadium, I missed all of them. It's going to stumble you, and people don't realize that there's all those blocks, and we have them in ourself for many different reasons. And so when you're trying to start a business, it's maybe important to, I'm kind of curious about this checklist now too, because now I'm like, this might be a really cool lead magnet for you, where it's like, hey, ask yourself these X amount of questions and let's work through these before you get your business going, so that you have true clarity, so that you are in energetic alignment. So it seems easier. I mean, there's been so many different things I have done in my career, and I'm sure you have, like this, you're in total alignment with what you do, and it's easy for you, right? There's no like fumbling and trying to, like, it just flows. And that's really what you want in your business. Yes, you're going to have like, sticky days and things that aren't perfect, but it should feel easy, and it shouldn't feel like work. It should just feel like, wow, this is like where I'm supposed to be, and I'm providing value and I'm getting something from it. So that might be a little like good lead magnet for you to like get people, like, they might be just kind of curious, like, where am I on
Yeah.
this? Like, but when it comes to different results and things, you've shared so many different stories about different clients who have had things. And a lot of times it feels like it's not really a success block, it's other internal blocks, really. And so like, you can't just come into the business world and think you're just gonna like point A to point B. You got to work on the energetics of it too. So 20% is strategy, the 80% is going to be the energetics, and focus on the energetics more than you do anything else. Like, how are you feeling that day when you're, working in that business? Are you thinking all negative things? Are you thinking like, hope this doesn't fail? Like, what are those thoughts that are like coming through your mind? And really start to pay attention to them, because once you can actually take subconscious and bring it to the conscious, you're going to be more aware of like, okay, I actually do have this chronic back talk coming in, because I know I have that. I don't know if you do, but I'll catch myself and I'll go, oh my gosh, it's resistant Kristen. I had one of my healers tell me, like, I went through this whole thing, and like this 6-year-old resistant Kristen came through, and it was like she was like taunting me, my 6-year-old self, and I was like, oh, okay, because like she was so afraid all the time when she was little, that she was going to make a mistake, she was going to do something wrong, she was going to disappoint somebody. And so that's always coming up in my business. Like, am I going to disappoint somebody? Am I going to do this wrong? Am I going to, all that stuff, all that noise shows up. And I'm sure everyone has some noise that, kind of lives and breathes into their business, right? That's personal, and it just shows up. So I guess ultimately, why do you think your process for what you do? Because like I said, I've tried so many modalities and I've had so many great ones. Just to kind of wrap this up, why do you think the emotion code and body code works so well with helping people in business to kind of tap into some of those trapped emotions, help them release them, so that they can actually truly become the most successful, abundant person that they're supposed to be?
When it comes to your subconscious, the main MO for your subconscious is safety. That's all it wants to do, is to keep you safe. Um, there's a really great movie called Inception. There's a lot of subconscious trigger words in there that they're using in there. And one of my favorite parts was when the when the architect, the girl, She's like building a dream for Cobb, the main character. She's like building these it looks like they're in Paris, and she's basically building making these buildings, but he keeps telling her like be careful, like if you build something that's a little too out there, because in my dream state it'll recognize that you're not from here, you're a foreigner, you know. And so what's interesting is this is one of the funniest parts, but it's just such a quick line, but it's so funny. They start bumping into her, like get out of the way. Just start bumping into these people. They're like, Cobb, can you like tell your subconscious to like chill out a little bit? And he's just like, I can't. They're my subconscious. And and that is so true. Like whenever you're winning or you're about to win or whatever, your subconscious will be like, "Whoa, you've never made that much. What are you doing? Like, people are going to steal from you. People are like, your subconscious starts acting up and will sabotage you." And it's almost like these people that were hitting that girl going like, "What are you doing here? Like, you can't be doing this. Like, you know, what are you, you're like, you're not from Cobb's mind. You're a foreigner. You're supposed to get out of here." It's the same thing. Our subconscious will push things away if it feels unsafe. So, what is the real goal? The real goal is remove any energies that don't allow you to feel safe with something. In fact, um, one of my first things that I do with people with wealth issues is if I do a couple of sessions and let's say nothing moves, could happen. Like I do 2 sessions and like kind of stagnant. I'll kind of check on something. I'll say, do you feel safe with financial abundance? And if it says no, it's kind of a what I call the lid session. It's like I'll work on them for them their body to say yes. Then when it says yes, it actually has a retroactive effect and goes back to the 2 other sessions that we worked on and boosts it. And all of a sudden, rivers are flowing in to that person. You know, they're like, oh, that was it. It was a safety thing, you know? So those 2 sessions didn't like go for nothing. You might say, oh, you wasted my time with this. No, no, you actually did remove those 2 things, but your body doesn't want to give you positive symptoms yet because we need to do a lid session of I do feel safe with financial abundance. And you could do that with also, do I feel safe losing weight? Or do I feel safe in a loving relationship? Those are lid sessions for different subjects, you know? So anyway, I feel like, my our practice has over like probably 850 5-star reviews. I mean, I've
Those are
I've
amazing.
really I've really cut my teeth, with this work. And every time if I ever have a down day, I may read my own reviews. It sounds weird, but I'll just kind of like to pick me up again, be
Yeah.
like this is what you could do. Like don't convince yourself otherwise. But sometimes too, people don't know this, but I'm also a regression hypnotherapist too. And the reason why I got into that, because if I'm doing a bunch of body code sessions, and this rarely happens. This is like a 1% chance, but there's like, you're the anomaly, like nothing happens. I try to let people know that you might have had a life where another life that's not this life. And this is also very, controversial too about, past lives, but I feel like you could have another life where maybe you're the wealthy person and you're stepping on people, and now you've come to this life to receive the karma where you're getting stepped on, you know?
Yeah.
And so if you go back there and forgive yourself, forgive the people you harmed, because all those people will come into your subconscious mind. During the session, you'll start remembering the people you caused affliction to. You go ahead and start, removing contracts, removing oaths, removing obligations, saying sorry to each other, cosmic apologies. Like you talk to your guide to ask your guide why you did this, whatever. Then you die, and then you kind of, go to this healing space, and then you come back to regular Earth, regular time. You'll come back and be like, all of a sudden things get unstuck because you've left some sort of taintedness in that life, that if you just were to learn like this is who you were before, do you remember who you were? And this is very important, that your lack of forgiveness on yourself and others is what's causing you pain in this life now. So fix that, then all of a sudden stuff starts opening here. So that's why I took a chance and said I'm going to become a regression hypnotherapist, because if I have to wear a badger suit to get you to become abundant, and like wear a porcupine suit and run down 3 streets and then like hit a light post, that's me running down the street doing it, because that's what a real healer does. Is you don't become biased towards your own modalities. You figure out any tool you can find, and when you start seeing any stuck people like once in a blue moon, it bothers the healer a ton. It goes, what is it? And how did I not penetrate through? Like what happened? And so that's when I started getting into regression work, just in case that might be an issue. So again, it's just very important that when you meet with someone that does a modality, take a journal, take notes on the different positive symptoms you notice, and then come back with your what I call roses and thorns. Roses are shifts that you've noticed. Thorns are areas that still need work. So come back and tell the practitioner the roses and thorns, and keep coming back until there's only roses. That's
I love
basically the
it.
goal.
That's that's a great way to end this. I love this so much. So if I can just ask you one more question before we go,
Sure.
what is your whole thought process on your permission to be rich? What permission have you given yourself? And rich is more than just being rich monetarily, but just, the whole abundance wealth space.
Yeah, first of all, is I feel like God wants us to be abundant, but not for us to hoard finances. It's to help others. And so when you have freedom, then you can help others have freedom too. And so it's to clothe the naked, to feed the hungry, to help those who can't help themselves out. I think that's the true purpose behind someone acquiring wealth.
I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emanuel. For anyone who is new to this modality or your message, can you tell them where they can find you?
Sure. So I also do, I didn't mention anything about this, but I do group healing as well. So I work with like 30, 40 people a week. But I created a social media platform. It's called haveempathyandlove.com. So it's haveempathyandlove.com. The acronym is HEAL, right? So haveempathyandlove.com. And if you go in there, it's free to join, and you can just reach out to me personally. There, just be like, hey, heard your podcast, and I'd love a free session. I do offer a free, still after 11 years now, a complimentary session to anyone who's new to this. So that's the best place to find me, is there.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emanuel, for your time today. This has been an amazing session, and I'm sure I'll have you on again because I know I'm going to have more questions from people. Maybe we can do a live thing one day too. That might be kind of fun.
Be cool.
Get
I'm
some
down
people
for
on
it.
here. Yeah, I love it. All right, Emanuel, thank you so much, and thank you all for listening to this session of Permission to Be Rich.
If you're ready to clear the emotional and energetic blocks that are holding you back from abundance, and you want to learn more about how you can work with Emanuel, go ahead and check out the show notes. I'll have the link where you can actually schedule your sessions with Emanuel. You can also join his beautiful community of healing and support at haveempathyandlove.com. Cheers to your healing, your freedom, and your abundance. If you enjoyed this episode, send it to a friend, and don't forget to follow Permission to Be Rich for more conversations that challenge the status quo and give you full permission to thrive. We'll see you next time.